Erin, I am so excited to have you on this podcast. I told you before we started recording, I've been dying to get a Midwest kid on, and here you are. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm pumped to talk about some softball. So
Me too. Me too. And I think one of my favorite memories with you, and probably one of the few of all of them, is simply meeting you at this clinic we did around South Bend. It was in South Bend, right? This
yes,
past
South
summer.
Bend. Yeah.
And it was right off of a season where just you absolutely crushed it at Kentucky. And I was just like, you were just so raw and wholesome. And I met your dad, and you guys are just like the coolest. And I honestly looked at you guys and I'm like, you remind me of like my family,
Uh,
like your
yeah.
dad's influence on you and everything. And we'll get to all of that. But I have to ask, like, first and foremost, we're really close to season recording this. How are you feeling? This is your junior year.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This even like think about it. That's my junior year. It's crazy. I just been kind of reminiscing like by myself the past couple weeks. I don't like bring it up with other people because it'll make me really sad then.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but I mean, it's crazy that I've already played 2 years of college softball and I have basically a year and a half left. Because it's been the best experience of my whole entire life. But yeah, junior year, coming off of the season that I had, obviously I feel some pressure, but when doesn't anyone feel pressure, honestly?
Mhm.
That's just part of being a softball player. So I'm pumped. I've worked really hard. I think our team has a really good shot. Kind of created a new identity for ourselves this year. So I'm really excited to show everyone what we're about because I feel like often like Kentucky's kind of underrated in the SEC, with all the big names like Florida and Alabama and all them. But yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah. Honestly, growing up, I didn't even realize Kentucky was in the SEC until I got older and then I started playing,
Correct. Yes, correct. I mean, you don't
but
ever really hear about them.
yeah, but like you literally played against my sister last year and I'm like, this
Hmm.
team can hit. Like
Yeah.
y'all can rake. It was
Uh-huh.
so fun to watch you guys ball out. But yeah, you guys are so dang good. And do you feel like being in the SEC, it can only help your team get better? Because like your conference season is like
Hmm.
there's no breaks. It's all
Oh,
gas.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like going into like postseason that last year, we all like obviously we are going to Virginia Tech, but like we played in the SEC. Like it's literally the hardest schedule that anyone could have. Like every single weekend is a grind. But yeah, I just feel like playing here is just different, you know. You don't really
Mhm.
get that anywhere else. So
Yeah. And I will say the environment that you guys have, like,
mhm.
you have so many fans that come out. It was literally
Yes.
freezing last year when
Yeah.
I
Oh
came
my
and
gosh. I
watched.
remember that.
Oh, it was so cold, but you still had
Yeah.
tons of fans there and it didn't seem like it affected your bats at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think that was our
um,
home opener. So yeah.
yeah, it was cold.
BBN usually shows out. So
Yeah. Yeah, it was,
yeah.
but it was a fun series, I will say.
Hmm. Hmm.
Especially because I get to watch you and my sister compete against each other.
Yeah. Your sister
Um,
was a baller last year. I mean, she
she
was so
she
good.
ended on a good note.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And having her on the podcast, I'm just like, who know you were so like, what's the word? Like, obviously well spoken, but like, I was so proud of her coming on, and she was just like
Uh-huh.
sharing her story and being all real and stuff. And I'm just like, I've never seen this version of you, and I love it so
Yeah.
much. So
Yeah.
she's been on twice. So who knows?
Uh-huh.
Maybe you'll come back on too.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
but so we're super excited for season. I think one thing that you said was that you're kind of nervous, like,
Hmm.
but like, I just want people to know that's like super normal.
Oh yes. I was actually thinking about this. Like I am someone who gets nervous like before one every single game, obviously. It doesn't matter who it is, SEC or a team in the preseason. Our preseason's pretty tough this year. So
Mhm.
but anyway, I like before every single at bat, even in practice, like when we're doing live ABs, I feel a little bit of like butterflies in my stomach. I don't know. It's just different. And I don't know if a lot of other softball players get that. I remember talking to some of my former teammates and they didn't ever really get that. Like, but I get nervous. Like, I think it's a good nervous. I think that's what makes me me. But yeah, I'm a little nervous, but I think the nervousness is like happiness and to be excited to play
Yeah.
softball again. So
I felt those same
yeah,
nerves. I felt those
yeah.
same exact nerves. And I like that you said it's like it's who you are. So
Hmm.
I think one way that I like to work with my athletes, and maybe you can share
Hmm.
a little light on this, is being able to shift those nerves, meaning that you care, by the way. If you're nervous,
Hmm.
then
Correct.
you care
Oh
about what's about
yes.
to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But shifting those nerves into like that game day type of energy.
Hmm.
So I felt like if I wasn't nervous, I didn't show up as good.
Yes. Oh,
Like,
no, correct.
you know,
Yeah.
so like
Yeah.
how are you able to maybe shift that in your mind, or maybe it's a routine that you do before games, maybe you listen to
Mhm.
music, like how do
Mhm.
you shift that nervousness into being able to just ball out in that game?
Yeah, I think it all starts, like, before you even come to the field. I've noticed that for me, like, my pregame routine, like, before I step foot into John Crop Stadium is, making sure I'm getting a good breakfast, not being overworked and, like, anxious, just being really calm, and, every night I try to visualize, it doesn't necessarily even have to be, like, me hitting or me playing defense. It's me, like, actually being calm and, like, ready to go and being confident. So, I think that's actually really helped me a lot,
Mhm.
but I think it all comes from kind of just having just subtle confidence. I'm not a very swaggy, confident, like, cocky player, but I think just having a slight confidence and, inner being confidence in yourself that, I can do anything. I think that helps me a lot, but yeah. It's definitely tough. It's something that I learned before even coming to college. I didn't really know how to channel that. I didn't really know how to channel my emotions very well, but that's something that I've definitely learned is
Mhm.
key to, having consistent good games. So,
Yeah. Who taught
yeah.
you that? How did you learn that?
I kind of started in high school with my dad, because he could kind of I mean, he could just tell like how I was gonna play in a game before it even happened.
Mhm.
Off my energy I was giving out. But he was really really big on the whole visualizing piece, and I think that's really what transformed my mental game. Because I didn't really have any idea on my mental game. I just went out there and played. So I think every night before I went to bed, I had this little breathing thing. I forget what it's called, but it's like actually like where you're working on your breathing and controlling your breathing. It's an app, but I think that helped me a lot in high school.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna have to
yeah,
text you after this and get that breathing app because
yes, yeah, yeah,
I was given one by a sports psychologist like when I was playing pro, and it was
uh-huh.
him talking like so
Yeah.
it was like he was telling you how to breathe and how many
hmm
seconds to inhale and exhale. Is it kind of like that? Like it was like making you aware of your body and what it's doing?
Yes, yeah, kind of. It like kinda like is like fluctuating like inwards and outwards, like with your inhale and exhale a little bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, I need to start using that again. But I have kind of gotten away from that. But now it's just more like me like visualizing and breathing on my own at night. So, but yeah, I think that was the first thing that really like took me to the next level.
That's so good. I love it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Before we dive so much into your play and how you get ready for games and stuff,
Yeah.
I would like you to kind of share because, like I said, you're one of the few Midwesterners who are like
Mhm.
all Americans around here. So
Mhm.
I think it would be kind of cool for you to share from what you can remember of like your childhood experience playing softball and like
Oh
your
yeah.
journey to get to where
Mhm.
you are now as one of
Mhm.
the elite players in the SEC. So if you just tell me what you remember from it, maybe from travel
Yeah.
ball, middle school, like what was life like for you growing up?
Yeah, so, I mean, I started when I was about 5 or so playing, the traditional T-ball and, transition league with the pitching machine, and that was more baseball, and I wouldn't say then, like, I don't have, like, a specific memory of me, like, loving it, I just think because my brothers and my dad played it that I was playing it, and then I went into, like, the actual rec league when I was about, I would say, 3rd grade, maybe 2nd grade, 3rd grade. And that's when I really started to notice, I'm not bad. Like I could do something with myself here. But I think I want to be honest. I think it started. Me and my brothers used to play wiffle ball all the time in our backyard, like
Mm-hmm.
all the time. We'd have
Mm-hmm.
tournaments with the neighborhood kids, and I think that's where I started to like really get my competitiveness and like just my love kind of for like hitting, honestly, and playing defense. So I think that's kind of where it started. And then obviously playing rec ball with my friends, noticing that I was actually not bad. And then we noticed like in 6th grade when I had like an edge on everyone, um, because I was still playing with the younger girls, and a lot of the girls were in the older ages, and we were trying to get myself to like play in the upper league, but they wouldn't let it happen because I was too young, pretty much. So that's when I went to Indiana Thunder. I think
Mm.
I was in like 10 or something like that. It was in 2011. So that's when I went to Indiana Thunder, and that was like the beginning of it all for me. I kind of stepped away from playing softball with my friends. Obviously, it got a little bit more serious, and that's when my love for the game like skyrocketed. Um, we were still playing pretty locally. I don't know if you know the Indiana Thunder. Used to know them, but
Yeah.
yeah.
They were competitors of my first travel team, the Fire, for a while.
Yes, yes. So that's where my love for the game kind of skyrocketed with Kevin Sandor, that coach. I loved him. We were pretty good, so that's when all that happened, and I was like, okay, like we need to continue this path. I kind of looked up to Erin Coffel. I don't know if you know who she is.
Oh, heck
She
yeah,
played it.
girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah,
Love
yeah.
Erin.
Yeah. So she obviously played at UK. So and she started with the Thunder and then went to the Magic and then went to UK. So like whenever I went to camps down there, like I just wanted to be her, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I went to Magic when I was in 7th grade, and that's when it all started, like for real, for real. And I was still loving the game, you know, hitting with my dad all the time, all of that. And then freshman year, well, 8th grade year, that's when colleges started to look at me. And you know how that is. That's a whole different type of experience. Very overwhelming, I think, for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was someone then who didn't know how to control my emotions after getting out, not slamming my helmet into the ground, but getting super upset with myself. So yeah, that experience was different. We can kind of dive into that later. But yeah, and then my freshman year, Kentucky was actually the first school to ever look at me.
Wow.
So yeah, they were the first one to ever offer me any of that. Funny story, actually. So it was my first official visit, not official visit, unofficial visit, and camp. So I went to UK, went to a football game, you know, did all the usual stuff, and they ended up offering me like when I came home, and I had a visit to Michigan the next weekend. And I was like, I don't want to go. Like I love UK, and I love the coaches. I love the atmosphere. Obviously, being in 8th grade, I have no idea. And my parents were like, Erin, like you're going to Michigan. Who are you? Like Coach Hutch? And so obviously ended up going to Michigan. I loved it there. Saw the university, but yeah. So and then high school ball started, and I was still playing with Indiana Magic. We had a pretty good team. We made it to PGF Nationals. We placed third twice over there. To do that as a
Mm-hmm.
Midwest team was actually insane.
Mm-hmm.
And our coach, Coach Rudd, you know him, awesome guy. He did something for me that no other coach has ever done for me, and it wasn't necessarily something softball like. It was, you know, mentally, like he just had this super belief in us that we were amazing. And he wasn't necessarily a negative coach, but he did something for us girls, and I don't think a single girl on that team like had any dislike towards him at all. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he was a different coach. He was a different human being, and I'm forever grateful for him. But yeah, and we're here today in college, so crazy. I mean, I was waiting 4 years for that, and it was when my freshman year came, it was crazy. But yeah.
That is insane. Okay, so why Kentucky over Michigan then? Because Michigan's a lot closer.
Yes. So what happened was I didn't really perform very well when Michigan came to watch me. They were looking at me obviously, but they ended up saying, you know, we're not really interested anymore. So my that went away, and then it was between Northwestern and Kentucky. And to be honest with you, I'm gonna be honest, like Northwestern, like they gave me a really good offer and everything. Love the coaches, love the atmosphere. You know, Jordan Rudd was there. She was going to be there, but it was the schooling aspect for me. I've been a big school girl, like straight A's in high school, all of that jazz. But I don't know, it was just not very appealing to me.
Mm-hmm.
But because Kentucky still had this great, I think Kentucky like gives off the persona that, you know, school, you know, all of that because of the basketball team and the football team. But the academics here are insane. So I mean, I feel like I'm getting just as good as an education here as I would anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It just felt more right for you.
correct. Yes. The coaches, you know, everything.
Yeah. And if you would have just gone with your gut, you didn't have to go to Michigan. You didn't have to check out any other school.
Correct. Tell my
But
parents
I do
that.
agree, like being in 8th grade, you're
Yeah.
probably glad that you saw other schools too.
Oh, 100%.
Because it just
That would
solidified
have been
what
an
it,
awful, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because
Amazing. Amazing.
uh-huh. Because like I didn't really even know what I hadn't even had my permit yet, you know what I'm saying? I know
Yeah.
everyone says that, but, like, I had no idea what I was doing. So
Yeah. So I didn't know this, that Erin was such a big influence on you. So
oh,
back when I
yes.
started doing camps like 4 years ago, Erin
Uh-huh.
was still like, she just left Kentucky,
Mhm,
was like looking for things to do, and I live right by her. So I was just like,
mhm.
Erin, and she played with my sister. Either that or they were close and playing together for the Magic. I was
Yeah.
just like, Erin, come work this camp for me.
Mhm.
And like people left that camp and they're like, oh my gosh, we love Erin. Like, I feel like her coaching in college now is just like she's at Huntington University.
Yes,
I think
yep.
that is the epitome of like Erin is meant to be a coach. Like
Oh, 100%, yes,
the way she
yes.
carries herself, like I'm not surprised at all that she was someone that you looked up to.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So I had a similar experience. I had someone, actually she was my age. So Erin was a little older than you, but
Yep.
um I had someone my age that was going off to play in college, and that's
Mhm.
what inspired me to like go after this and see what I could do with it. But you had Erin to kind of look up to, and you guys played for similar organizations. Like, did
Yep.
you and your family spend a lot of time learning their story and or her story and how she was able to play at Kentucky? Did you ask them questions a lot? Like, how did that
Yeah.
relationship work, or was it just like a I want to be like her type of thing?
Yeah, I would say it was more like I kinda wanna be like her. I don't think I ever really got the chance to be, like, personal with her and her family.
Mhm.
Obviously, as I got older, and I started going to UK camps and all of that, I think it got a little bit more personal, but it was more of just I wanna be like her. Like, she was she's from Indiana, she played for the Indiana Thunder, like, Indiana Magic, and now she's at UK. I feel like that's what really started, like, "Aaron, you can, like, actually do this." Like,
Mhm.
that's what the thought was in my head, like, it's not impossible. You don't have to be from California or the East Coast or whatnot, so I think that's really what started it for me all and really gave me the confidence that it's possible, so
Yeah, if you can see it, you can be it. That's
correct,
totally a thing.
yes.
It's totally a
Correct.
thing.
It
Shout out to
is.
Erin. I love that
Yeah.
so much. I'm going to share this with her after this.
Uh-huh.
But so that's where I know your dad was a huge influence on you.
Mhm.
I want to talk about him, but before we do that, I want to hear, what was your training like? Like obviously you don't
Yeah.
get looks at eighth grade unless you're really
Uh-huh.
good. So like,
Uh-huh.
what did your training look like? Especially because these Midwest people, or even just people that live in cold states,
Correct.
I think they need to know, like, where were you practicing? How were you practicing? Like,
Mhm.
because we can't just go
Yeah.
to a field outside. So,
Correct. That's so true, yeah.
so tell me a little
So
bit about
I
that.
Yeah. So my dad was my hitting coach my whole life. He he was a really good high school baseball player. He went to college at St. Joe, was really good there and got drafted. So he knew what he was talking about, but uh he kind of just took me under his wing and we just went for it. We never went really Evan Sharpley, I don't know if you know who that is.
Mhm, mhm,
I hit with him a little bit in high school, but what really started it for me was I think we had our own cage,
mm,
and I wouldn't say my swing was great. I wouldn't say, my mental approach was great, but we just worked. That's really
yeah,
what I recall from, like, middle school is, like, we were probably at the cages 5 days a week, um, just hitting, I don't think he knows a lot more now than he knew back then, because of social media and, learning from people like Evan. But he uses knowledge and his skill, and, we had our rough moments. I wouldn't say that. I think every father-daughter relationship who is playing the game of softball has those moments,
if
but
it's
I
going
we did
right,
correct,
that's
yeah.
the case.
Yeah, yeah. But we just I mean, we were just cage addicts, like, we were there all the time, he was always helping me, but he was very, very hard on me, I think that's truly why I am who I am today, um, he got on me all the time. If I wasn't holding my end of the stick, he was gonna let me know, if I was hanging out with friends a little bit too much, he was gonna let me know. Obviously, I had a good balance in my personal and social life, a lot different from others who didn't, follow my path, but, uh, yeah, I wouldn't say, until I got to high school, that's when I really started to work defensively on my game, which I kinda regret in a way because I never really went to the field that much to like take ground balls. But in high school, when it all changed for me, that's when it kind of started to catch up to me, like in magic and everything like that. I was like, I need to be better. Like
Mm-hmm.
my defensive side of the game wasn't really picking up its slack. And I don't know, like when I'm someone when I make a mistake, like I hate it. I absolutely hate it. So I think that's when it all started for me was taking ground balls and doing stuff like that all the time and just reps after reps after reps. And I think that was just honestly the name of the story for me, hitting offensively and defensively. Is me and my dad may have not had like the best cages or the best facilities or anything like that, but we found a way to get work in, and we found a way to just get reps. It was all about reps and learning after each one. Me and my dad kind of created this relationship, like hitting wise, is we were I would say like beginning of high school, we were just taking way too many reps. And it was like my downfall,
Mm.
honestly. Because after you take so many reps, like you're no good after, 300 or so. And I think that's where we started to finally realize it was quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big thing for me and him, and it still is when we hit together. So I think that's when I took the next step in maturing and realizing that it doesn't have to be 400 swings every day. If you get 200 good swings in, you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's what I would say. That's what my training regimen kind of looks like. I was weightlifting a lot in high school. That's when it really started for me. And then I also played basketball. So that kind of where the conditioning piece kind of took in. So
Yeah. I love that. And I love how you were just open about like, we had to learn that, I
yeah,
can't,
yeah.
I can't stay at this
Mm-hmm.
level during a hitting session for
Yes.
400 reps. Um, Dad and I were the same way. It was like
Mm-hmm.
we literally we thought we knew what we were doing and we were doing that well, and then we
Yeah.
quickly learned like, okay, we can definitely make adjustments here.
Yes.
But like
Yep.
that's the thing is like people think that, from you getting to where you were in South Bend to Kentucky, it's like, oh, it's this cookie cutter road. Like everything must have
Mm-hmm.
gone well. No, it's like trial and
No.
error. It's
Yeah.
making adjustments with how we're training. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, I think, nobody's emphasized reps as much as you just did on this
Yeah.
podcast. But like
Yeah.
in regards to it, you know yourself better the more you take swings. So
Correct.
and like you said, you didn't even have like the prettiest swing, but like you probably got the job done because you
Yeah.
knew what
Yeah.
type of a swing you needed to
Uh-huh.
hit that right center gap to score a runner,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
like,
Yes,
um,
exactly.
and so when it comes to like your dad and how he influenced you here, you were getting in the reps, but like, did you start off the tee? Then did you do front
Mhm.
toss? Like, what did those reps kind of look like when you
Yeah.
break it down?
Yeah, so I've always been a huge tea person, and so is my dad, so he's kinda started that with me. So we would probably take half of my reps off the tee.
Mm-hmm.
We would do different drills, working he's never been a big put the tee in the middle of the play and hit it.
Mm-mm.
It's always outside or inside. It's never down the middle. And sometimes when I even do drills that the tee would be better off down the middle, I always scoot it a little bit more to the outside part of the plate,
I love
to
it.
make sure that I'm working all four zones. But yeah, we've always done the tee, outside, inside, high, low. We got a low T when I was like a freshman in high school, so that was another big step for me. Um, but yeah, and we do a bunch of drills, drills he'd find off the internet that he thinks are good for me. It was kind of just learn as we went.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously, again, he had a lot of knowledge on what he was doing, but he learned a lot along the way. And then we would usually go into front toss. And I think that's the thing, the that Midwest girls kind of fall behind in the piece of like live hitting. We only really saw live hitting in the summer and in the
Mm-hmm.
fall when we were playing. And the rest of the time, I literally just was hitting off front toss. So I didn't really have a machine to work off of. But again, we would just do reps after reps after reps, and we would just learn my swing. So I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what it all entailed. Kind of still is like that today. When I go to the field, I usually take half my swings off the tee, working my routine and all my drill sequences that I have. Because I just think the tee is like so, I don't know, it's kind of like my friend in a way. Like
Yeah.
we've created such a good relationship with each other. Like it doesn't really make me mad anymore. Like I usually have pretty good swings off of there, and I like to work different barrel angles off of there and different postures off of there. Because it's yeah, but so I would say my whole hitting routine was kind of like so.
Yes, I love the T too. You're speaking my love
Mhm.
language.
Yes.
Um, my signature drills that I did in college off the tee, like when no one was around, I just need to work
Yeah.
on myself,
Yeah.
was like extension. I felt like that from a connection standpoint really helped me a ton. Like I loved that
Mhm.
drill. Sometimes I would incorporate like a jump back or some sort of like enhanced leg engagement type of thing.
Yeah.
And like you, I would move all around the zones because my hitting
Mhm.
coach, growing up, we literally took 45 swings off the tee at the beginning of
Yeah.
every lesson. It would take 15 minutes, like every
Uh-huh.
time.
Uh-huh.
And we would break it not into 4 quadrants, but 9. So getting
Mhm.
like the high in, the high, middle, high out. So we would work a
Yep.
little more middle.
Yeah.
But we would just get in all of those reps. And I feel like that's the reason why I was able to, understand what it feels like to get to a high and outside pitch and like what swing is going to get
Correct.
me a base hit there versus I'm just going to see what happens if I go for it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's that drills are great, but like also like what's great about the tee is being able to, make your own adjustments off the tee and,
Mhm.
know what approach works best for you on certain pitches.
Yes.
So do you have certain right now, like
Mhm.
drills that are your signatures? Like no
Yeah.
matter what,
Yeah.
Erin's doing these before games or
Uh-huh.
practices.
Yeah, I definitely do. A couple that I always do, like stop at contacts. I always do that stuff.
Yeah.
Have you heard of like Happy Gilmore, stuff like that? The
Oh
Happy
yeah.
Gilmore?
Do you do
Yeah,
those fast or kind of like slow?
slow.
Yeah.
I always try to do things pretty slow and controlled. When I start to get fast through my swing, it usually doesn't end well for me, and I usually
Hmm.
create some bad habits that I don't like.
Hmm.
But yeah, I always do stop at contacts. I'm a big one bat, one arm bat person.
Hmm.
Uh,
Still to
I
this day, as
love
in
yes,
college. Yes.
yes, love doing that stuff. Feel like it really isolates your body and what you feel. But I'm a big one arm girl. I love doing like open stance things.
Hmm.
So just really working on barrel whip and getting my barrel into the zone. Uh, but yeah, I do a lot of low T stuff. I do heavy bat stuff, especially in the off season. I'm a big heavy bat person, developing bat speed. I think that's really been like I feel like I've had that like that's something in my swing that I've always been like a little bit like on top of. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? In high school, like I really had good bat speed, and I think that's what helped me a lot. Even when I didn't have the best mechanics. So we were constantly working heavy bat stuff, especially in high school with my dad. You know, going from like a 32-ounce bat to a 30-ounce bat to the 28, and then to my bat. So we did a lot of that when I was growing up. We also did a lot of this wasn't off the tee, but we did a lot of heavy ball stuff
Hmm.
as well. Just in the cages, we obviously did that. That's like what a lot of travel ball teams do to warm up. So I
Yep.
feel like it was a simple thing, but I feel like it helped me a lot. Be solid through contact. But yeah, I would say those are my key things right now. In college, I mean, something I've kind of Coach Himes is a big yeah, she always tells me this is her thing, less body, more barrel.
Mhm.
So, I do a lot of drills where I isolated the lower half, or I'm isolating the upper half. My lower half is not moving at all. So my feet are in the ground, hips are not moving, and all I'm working on is my barrel path and my barrel whip to the ball. So that's something else I do a lot off the tee.
Mhm. Yeah, it's funny when I emphasize that in a lesson, like, "Hey, let's just focus on hands and your barrel."
Yeah, correct.
And they're like, "Well, how do I do that without my legs?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "Well, the thing is when you hit," and I learned this from a friend
Uh-huh.
of mine, Chris Vasami, he's just like, "Well, pretty sure you can get a hit with just your hands, but you can't
You
get a hit with
can.
just your legs." So,
Yes, that's fair. Never heard
but,
that, but I like it. Yeah.
I'm even a coach where like I used to only emphasize legs.
Mhm.
And like if you don't have the right path to the ball, which is why I loved you talking about one arms,
Mhm.
we're not going to get there. So when
Yes.
you do just hands, your core is involved like so much
100%.
more.
Yes, yes, and
Yeah.
that's something that Coach Himes has really brought to my attention is I never really thought about my core at
Hmm.
all, like, when I was
Hmm.
younger and in high school, but now that is one of the key things that I think about because it's just, like, your core is in the middle of your body, like, that's what stabilizes you, you know, if you don't have a core, by. Like your swing, I don't know. Like you can still get the job done, but thinking about your core and it, like centralizing your swing, I feel like that's really helped me a lot. So
I love that we're nerding out about hitting right now.
I know I
This
love
makes
hitting.
me so happy.
I love it.
So good. So good. Okay. So by the way, if nobody was like taking notes there, like I
Hmm.
hope that you're at least writing some of these drills down because you can find all of them on YouTube. I think even half of them you can find on my YouTube channel. Not to put in
Correct.
the plug, but here we go.
Yep.
But like they're not these like crazy wild like sprinkle some fairy dust on a drill. Like it's not this like
Correct.
fancy thing. Everybody's trying to find the fancy new drill.
Hmm.
These are all drills that you and I were doing, and I can say
Hmm.
you and I because I can now say other than open stance, because that was something I learned later, all
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
these things were drills that I was learning at
Hmm.
the age of like maybe eighth grade, ninth grade.
Yes. Yes. I
Like,
mean, the most simple things, like
yeah,
everyone knows them. Like
yes.
it doesn't have to be complicated.
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. It's about, okay, here's a drill that works well for me. Now
Hmm.
it's time to get in the reps. I think
Yes.
that's where like people, they save the drills on their phone and like,
Hmm.
I'm sure people save my drills and never look at them again. I don't want that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want
No.
this. I hope this encourages people to like, okay, here's one drill that Erin talked about. Let's try it.
Hmm.
If it works for us and we feel good with it, let's plan to get in,
Yes.
a
It's
100
all
reps this week on it.
yeah.
Like,
It's all about feels, like what feels good. And I feel
yeah.
like that is something that like I base my swing and like how I feel off of is like that feels good. Like I'm gonna keep going with
Mhm.
that. I'm getting good
Yeah.
swing where the ball is going. So I'm getting good
Mhm.
just that's what I go off of. If it feels good, I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah. Did your dad emphasize feel a lot when you worked together?
Yes. Yes. He was big on different cues with me. You know how being a hitting coach, different cues work different for different people.
Hmm.
One might not work for another person. So it was constantly trying to find that one thing that I could feel in my body that he was saying that was connecting in my brain that could
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's still the thing today with Coach Hyams. We're always trying to find that right thing that will, get my swing back on. So,
Hmm.
but yeah. And
That's so
another thing off
good.
the tee that I kind of just put together in my head was like before I get into like real swings, like low out or high out, I always do all the drills before that. So I like try to isolate each body part. So like the Happy Gilmore, like that's with my lower half, working on my back hip. The big poppy, I didn't mention that one. Do you know what that one is?
I think I've heard of it, but can you
It's
explain
kind
it?
of like it's kind of like where you meet in the middle right here, like with your
Oh,
front
yeah,
knee,
yeah.
and then you work on separation.
I call that
So
rubber band. Yeah, that's
yeah,
my rubber
yep,
band drill.
perfect. Yes,
Cool.
yep. So I do that one as well, isolating the lower half, working on separation. I do stop at contacts. I do the one arm stuff. So I think it's just isolating different types of your body and getting your body to feel those movements before working into my full swing.
Hmm.
So that's what I usually do off the tee. I usually take maybe a couple swings, like just to get my body loose before I start hitting off the tee. But then I go into the drill work, and then I end with the full swings at each location.
Yeah.
So
If you ever didn't do that routine
you,
of activating every muscle and then you had to go play,
mhm.
how would that go mentally for you?
I don't think. I mean, it wouldn't have a huge role, but like in the back of my mind, I'd be like, Aaron, like
You didn't
I
do your
know, like
reps.
yes, as soon as I'd be like done doing like my tee work, I'd be like, Aaron, you didn't do like so and so drill, and I feel like that would kind of sit there for a little bit, but I wouldn't let it affect me for too long. I think in high school that probably would have maybe
Right.
affected me a little bit more, but yeah, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't sit well with me. Like I would tell myself, you probably should have done those. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I was only asking because that's kind of how our brains work half the time. It's like
yes.
when you establish the routine,
Hmm.
like I think we should all have like a longer routine and then like a shorter, brief, excuse me, routine in case like we're at a point where we just don't have the time
Yeah.
to put in the
Yes.
30 minutes of the warm up.
Hmm.
But like it's just about having some sort of a routine, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you did also mention how when you were younger, you had some trouble managing your energy. Like
Hmm.
when you didn't get the hit. And I did the
Hmm.
same thing. I'd sometimes like shove my helmet and I like
Mhm.
into my bag. Like it would be like this
Mhm.
forceful thing. And if my dad caught me, I was in so much trouble.
Yeah.
But I had some trouble with that too. What would you encourage the players who um they maybe struggle with, the getting out part or the thing
Yes,
you can't
yeah.
control part, but it gets you really
Uh-huh.
upset? Like,
Yeah.
what are ways that because obviously when I watched you play, like, I didn't see that once, even though maybe
Mhm.
internally you were talking about yourself,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, what are ways that has helped you, be able to get over that quicker? Because you and
Mhm.
I both know if you don't get over the bad energy, then you're going to take that with you to the rest of the game. So how
Yes.
are you able to get better at that?
Yeah, so when I was younger, like, my emotion was, like, it's so embarrassing, but it was, like, crying. Like, I would, especially when I was, like, in rec league and stuff like that, like, I would cry after getting out because, like, "Erin, like, you're so much better than all these girls, like, what are you doing? You're getting out right now?" And I think it all comes back to, like, obviously, like, I've cared my whole entire life. I wanted to be perfect my whole entire life, but that is not the game of softball.
Mhm.
Um, and it's been a constant battle, like, that is something I've battled all the way up until college, or probably it's, like, early high school, is, like, I would get so pissed when I would get out, so pissed. And it's something that you have to understand and realize, and I think it took a lot more than it should have for me to understand that softball is everyone knows this and you hear it all the time, but it's a game of failure. You're going to fail more than you succeed. Um, and it's something that you have to literally implant into your head while you're practicing even. And things aren't going well, you have to implant that into your head that it's a game of failure, and when you're good, 4 out of the 10 times or 5 out of the 10 times, that's pretty good.
Mhm.
So I think as a younger player though, you're playing for fun then. Like, you have to understand, like, those are, like, if I could go back and, like, take some of the things back, I would, because I feel like I took the game for granted a lot, and I took
Mhm.
it a lot more seriously than I should have. Obviously, I put the work in, to be great, but I think I took it a little bit more seriously than it should have then, especially playing for, like, the Thunder and, teams like that. The pressure take the pressure off yourself. Like, you're there to have fun. The game of softball is fun, and it's gonna be done before you even know it. I can't believe I have 2 years left of playing college softball. Like, insane to me. Um, but go out there and have fun, and I know that's just typical and cliche that everyone says, but it's the truth. Like, the game of softball, it you don't we're women, so but professional softball is growing, so that's awesome. But, the reality for a lot of women is it's done after college if you get to college, which, it kinda sucks to think about sometimes, but you don't have you don't have your whole life like a lot of men do to play baseball or football or basketball. So, but yeah.
Mm. That's so
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
That's what you would tell your younger self.
Yes.
And that's the thing I want to emphasize too is like it's about having fun, but that doesn't mean you still don't put in the reps and like hit and put
Yeah.
in the work,
Yes.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
part that makes it more fun is when you've put in the
Mhm.
reps and now you're like crushing it even more. Like
Mhm. Correct.
it's
Yeah.
it's that balance of both.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you, and maybe I don't know if this is a Midwest thing, like I don't know if it's because I had huge goals to play in college too.
Mhm.
Did you ever receive any like backlash or doubters or, people that were like, that's too big. Why would you go for that? Like I had
Yeah.
friends that told me that stuff.
Yeah.
Did you experience any of that or was it you were pretty good at being able to say, no,
Yeah.
this is
I
who I
would
am?
s yeah, I would say, the town of Bremen, like where I'm from, and my community, my friends and family, they were all pretty supportive, for the most part. I wouldn't say I was like getting any like backlash or hate, but it was more like my friends are like, Erin, like, why can't you come to this? Like, what are you
Hmm.
doing? I think it was just stuff like that, when I thought about it and when I wasn't playing softball and I was sitting in the hotel room and I saw my friends' Snapchat stories, I was like, dang, like that kind of sucks.
Hmm.
So I think that was the tough part about it, but I would say for the most part, I got pretty lucky and I didn't really have anyone backlashing or hating, or doubting me along the way. Maybe I wish I kind of would have had that. I think that would have lit some fire under me.
Hmm.
I think the thing that for me that lit fire under my belt was seeing it wasn't hate towards, players from California, but but I think it was, like, they get to play, like, all year round. Like,
Mhm.
I wish I could have been able to do that, but it was, like, when I had the opportunity to get reps in and, like, if it was a sunny day in February, I was gonna go and take some ground balls. Um, so I think that's kinda something that lit the fire under my belt was, they're getting reps in all the time. So
Mhm.
you have to find a way to, get the reps in when you can, especially because I played basketball in high school. So, but yeah, my friends and family were really, really supportive, and I always had the town of Bremen to support me. So I've been
Mhm.
very, very grateful for that.
That's so good. I love that.
Yeah,
Do you think basketball had a big influence on like your agility and how it helped you become a better softball player in the long run?
100%. Yeah, I do not regret ever playing basketball. Because I also think it just gave me a chance to get away from softball.
Yeah.
Um,
Made you
I
miss
know a
it.
lot of correct, correct, and it just it gave me a chance to, play a different game because softball and basketball are complete opposite. Softball is a little bit slower, obviously basketball's faster. So it just gave me a chance to get away from the reality of softball, especially when I was younger and like freshman year and sophomore year. Uh, just gave me a chance to get away, talk with new people, interpret a new game, find a different game plan, watch film on different people. Uh, yeah, but the conditioning part, 100%. I don't think I
Oof.
feel like if I didn't play basketball, it probably would not have been very good because my
Mhm.
family is like, we're like, you know, bigger people and we're pretty strong people. Where I wouldn't say we're the fastest though. So I think basketball definitely played it like a huge role in that.
Yeah, and I learned too, and I made this
Mm,
realization like a few years ago. I don't know if you have yet.
yeah.
I also played basketball. My dad played college
Mhm.
basketball. I'm pretty sure he's a little butthurt that none of us chose basketball as our college sport.
I think I would
Um,
be too.
I mean, it all turned out okay, but
Yeah, yeah.
another thing that basketball kind of taught me was how to get over things quickly, right? Because like
Yes.
you make a bad pass and like the other team has the ball now, you strictly have to just like forget about it and go play defense. Like
Correct.
so in softball, like we have multiple minutes. Like sometimes it's
Mhm,
15 minutes, 20 minutes before your
mhm.
next at bat. And you have
Yes.
all that time to overthink and overanalyze. But in
Mhm.
basketball, it's like you take the shot, you miss it. Okay, I'm on defense. Or,
Yes.
even when you do something great, like you make the
Mhm,
three, you have to go play defense. Like
mhm.
whether you
Yeah.
do something great or do something bad, like you have to get over it fast.
Yeah, I think that's basketball gave me the ability to really control my emotions. Like you were kind of just saying, like you got to get over it in an instant. It kind of just goes away in your mind because
Uh-huh.
you got something else to worry about. But in softball, you have, like you were saying, so much time to think about it. And I think without basketball, I think the process would have taken me a little bit longer while playing softball to get over myself and get over the emotions and move on. So yeah, I guess I've never really thought about that, but
I
yeah,
know
basketball
when I made
really
that realization, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
yeah, I
And
mean, it really
I'm
does.
very envious of basketball players for that reason too.
Yeah, yeah. So they can just get over it like that,
I
I'm
know.
sure it probably still gets them after the game's over, but not, during a pitch.
Yeah. Um, there's one more thing I want to ask about travel ball because we kind of touched on it a
Mhm.
little bit with Coach Red and him being a great influence on you.
Yeah.
But we were lucky to have, one very elite travel ball organization. And no, this is
Mhm.
not sponsored by Indiana Magic Gold. But you, me, and my sisters, like we all played in this organization.
Yeah.
And it was, at the time when I played, me and Erin, us oldies,
Mhm. Mhm.
there was like one team per like age group. So there's like one
Yeah.
18s, one 16,
Yep.
maybe there were two, but there wasn't like all these teams now.
Mhm.
But we were one of the best. Like you were able to win on national stages on this team. But there's only like one of us, and this is another
Yeah.
reason why like
Yeah.
it's very hard to play at a high level from
Uh-huh.
here because
Uh-huh.
there's other great teams around, but like, we're
It's not yeah. It's not like the
we're
competition in California.
right. Like they have, an Indiana Magic every 5 miles. Like,
Correct.
so, playing for this elite travel team,
Mhm.
how big was that for you to be able to get seen by
Oh,
these big teams?
I don't think if I would have played for them, it probably would have happened. I know
Yeah.
you have the Bandits and all of that, but I feel like just being from Indiana, like I felt like I had the duty to play for Indiana Magic Gold. Like that was
Yeah.
like that was like that was our team,
Yeah.
Um, and without them, I don't think playing college softball would have been a reality for me, because I've kinda learned as I've gotten older is if you don't have the team name, you're not gonna be put on the great fields in travel ball tournaments,
Mhm.
unless you're that one standout team that's kind of been, known over the past couple years in an organization, but if you don't have, 1, the team name, you're not gonna be put on the good fields, and the good fields are where the college coaches are at. So I felt that, Magic obviously had a great reputation. We got put on the good fields, and that was kind of that's how we got seen. So I feel like without them, it probably would have never happened. And without Coach Rudd, it's kind of crazy because I feel like a lot of coaches do things a lot differently, like recruiting a lot differently. But that man is just a great human being, and I feel like he made connections with coaches that not a lot of other travel ball coaches can make. So
Exactly.
I feel like he really sold, like, all of his players and, like, was really authentic with the coaches, and I feel like that's what made the recruiting process a lot easier for me.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Couldn't agree more. I think that's the part that's overlooked is
Yeah.
especially if you're a player who wants to play at a high level,
Mhm.
you have to have the right people advocating for you that have good
Mhm.
relationships.
Mhm.
Like for me at the time, it was Kim Clay. Like he was the founder.
Yes. Yep.
Like, and
Yeah.
then you have Rudd, and then I mean, there's other people even within Magic that have great
Mhm.
reputations.
Mhm.
But like sometimes it's not just about the name, because like
Yes.
obviously Indiana Magic has made their mark, but there's like um, other organizations where they have, the name, but like they're not the elite of this organization. So like
Yes. Yes.
you have to make sure you have those coaches in your corner that
Yes.
are able to like really advocate for you and have a good reputation.
Mhm.
And we had that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
for those
And
people
I
that are
feel
like, how do you get seen? Like that's one of the
uh-huh.
biggest factors.
Yes, is having a great coach, that will do that's really fundamental in your softball game, but also can make connections with coaches. My
Mhm.
computer I need to plug in my computer really quick.
Oh, are we
It's about
about to
dead.
die?
Yeah, we're about to die here.
It's funny. Mine was gonna die before this, and I was like, I need to plug that in.
Yeah, okay,
You're good.
we're
Take
good
your
now.
time. This is the
Okay.
part of editing that we can make work. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
yeah. But, like, as I was saying, like, if you don't have, like, the team name, you gotta have a really good coach.
Mhm.
That's gonna get you seen, and that's gonna get you, the college coaches coming consistently to your games because they could come to one game, but, like, what if you're not very good that game? So I feel
Yeah.
like the Magic gave me the consistency that I needed, um, to really be seen by college coaches and to see that I am a good player. Um, but yeah, yeah, Magic Gold, I mean, love that organization. Would do anything for them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Were you attending a lot of camps at a young age? Because I know that was big for me.
Yeah.
Before I started playing for Magic, so
Uh-huh.
like I needed to go to kind of see what the competition was like.
Mhm. Yeah, I went to 2 or 3, UK camps. I went to an Ohio State camp, Michigan, and Northwestern. Uh, yeah, I mean, I would say I went to a few,
Mhm.
but I don't think anyone's a big camp person, but I actually just hated camps with
Yeah, a
the
lot of
life
people
of
do.
me.
It's a long
Yeah,
day.
it
Mhm.
is such a long day, but it's a grind, and you have to I think to be seen and, to, like, show college coaches that you're interested is you need to go to the camps and, play your butt off and show, like, you got energy and you can go for a while. So
Mhm.
I feel like they're definitely crucial in your recruiting process. I don't think it's gonna make or break you by how you perform, but by simply showing the coach that, "I'll come to your college camp if you're interested in me, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna, show you what I'm all about." So, yeah, but I wouldn't say I went to gobs and gobs of them.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, you can't just go
Mhm.
to the camp if you're not good and get seen.
Yes,
Like this is
correct.
Erin talking about like after she is really good and is being seen, like she's going to
Mhm,
these camps. But
mhm,
like a lot of people think, well, if I go to the camp, that means they're gonna like notice me. Well, here's the deal. If you've been working your tail off for like 2 years
yeah,
on your skills, then yes, this is your time to shine. This is your time
mhm,
to, show that you're good. But
mhm,
for some people, they're just going to camp so they can like shake hands with the coach that's looking at them and be like, here
and
I
have some
am.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah. And you actually get to like have a face-to-face interaction, which is
mhm,
huge
mhm,
and massive for any relationship. Um, you kind of mentioned earlier about like being able to manage your energy. Was it ever tough when you knew a college coach was like in the stands and you were performing? Like, was that a big feat that you had to overcome, or were you pretty chill about it? Like, what was your mental game like when that happened?
Um, yeah, I would say at the beginning, that was like in 8th grade. So that's when I was still struggling with the whole controlling my emotions thing.
Yeah.
So I was not very good at it at all. Like I would get super, super nervous. But I would still like on the field, I would find a way to control it. In a way I would make it just a tiny bit better. Like I wouldn't get super, super mad after I got out or something like that. I would still
Mhm.
get mad, but not show the coaches that I was some awful teammate and stuff like that. That's the thing with me is like I maybe at the beginning I wasn't a very good teammate after I would get out, but I've learned like you can be mad at yourself, but you better not take it out on your teammates.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was always a pretty good teammate in that aspect. But anyway, the recruiting process, like I had to find a way to, seeing all of them behind the backstop, I had to find a way to still like tell yourself, Aaron, it's just a game.
Yeah.
Like this isn't gonna make or break you. Like, you know what I'm saying? You just have to find a way to really put it all into perspective. I think that's what I did for myself in a way, is that, 15 college coaches are outside, but it's just a game.
Hmm.
Like
The game
you
hasn't
just play.
changed.
No, it hasn't changed at all. It's still a yellow ball. They're still gonna hit a ground ball to me. I'm still gonna hit the ball. Like it's nothing. It's
Yeah.
nothing that I worked myself up to where I would like perform very poorly. So it's nothing like that. But I think you definitely have to find a way to and then what kind of sucked is, the recruiting process was so early for me and it's so early for a lot of people is you don't really know how to control your emotions at that age. But yeah, I found a way to somehow control them in a way that helped me get recruited.
Yeah. I think there's something to say about, because I think what I would try to do, and this is after I made many mistakes when college coaches were
Mhm.
watching, was like, if you go all out,
Mhm.
like there's nothing more you could do,
Correct.
like if
Yes.
you go all out and play your heart out, that's all you need to do, literally.
Yes. Yeah. And
Um,
I would find like before I was like if I was timid before a game, I wouldn't perform well.
nope.
And my dad made sure he told me that after the game. I would always hear that after the game. Um, so that's kind of the mentality I had to go into the games is like just go all out, like die for balls, bust your butt to everything. So don't be timid.
Yeah. I've shared this like one other time on the podcast, but like I remember I was already committed to Purdue and my coach was in the
Hmm.
stands. And for some reason I was like terrified. And I was playing
Yeah.
center field and I had like this routine pop up right to me, popped out of my glove and it dropped out of my glove.
Yeah.
I was like, in my head, I was like, well, first of all, I finished the play because like
Uh-huh.
if I would have shown emotion right there, then my scholarship might have been revoked. Who knows?
Correct. Yeah.
But like I finished the play and in my head, I'm just like, I might not be going to Purdue after this game.
Yeah. 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 I mean,
But don't
after I had,
worry,
yeah.
nothing happened. Nothing changed.
Uh-huh.
I reached out to my coach afterwards and I was just like, yeah, so I saw you saw that. Like, I just owned it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, no, I still went to Purdue, so it all worked out. But I
Yeah.
think, keeping it simple, playing your heart out, like not being timid, like that's got to
Mhm.
be the go-to.
Mhm.
Um, Anything else that you want to share that you haven't already, maybe about like your dad's relationship or what you're looking forward to this year? Anything we might have missed that you definitely want to
Um,
shine a light on? I
Something
feel
about
like
my
we've talked
dad.
about
My
that a lot.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
dad and I relationship. It was like really, really unique, but I feel like it's like worth sharing. Is there was like a couple years where we honestly did not have a very good father-daughter relationship because softball got in the way of it. And then,
Mm,
like looking back at it, like it was a tough couple years because he was my hitting coach. He was my coach, so like he was everywhere with me for softball. And I think for all the dads out there, and it's something he knows now. It's not something that he doesn't know is that he would just, especially when we were hitting and stuff like that, is I wasn't very good at controlling my emotions, and he would get mad as well. When I
mm,
would get mad, he would get mad, and it would just turn into a downward spiral of you know nothing good was going to come out of that session, and I feel like that happened for like probably 1 to 2 years maybe, and it was not fun. Like, I did not look forward to going to the cages because I knew if I got mad, my dad was gonna get mad, and
Mhm.
but I feel like as we learned and as we grew, he found a way to not say as much. He really learned that, like, a cue, something after every single pitch was just gonna, you know, it was
Yes.
just gonna keep going downhill from there. And I think that's something, especially hitting coaches and, dads that are hitting coaches, is saying something after every single pitch is not helpful. That
No.
is just putting 100 thoughts into your head, and it's just not gonna make anything better. Um, so I feel like that's really something that I learned, and it kinda just sparked my mind because I was working at UK camp a few weeks ago, and a dad came up to their daughter while she was in the hitting line and, like, said something to her about hitting and, like, made her cry, and then she went into the cage and did not do well, and it was just I don't know. That never happened with m my dad like that. He was way smarter than that, but I feel like just, to have a good relationship with your dad outside of softball, is very crucial because it makes playing softball better,
Mhm.
especially if he's very, very involved in your softball life. But it took a lot of growing and understanding and realizing that, it's bigger than softball and that, you know, so that's something a little bit that I wanted to share. But because I feel like a lot of people or girls who play softball, their dads are big roles in their lives. So
Mhm.
yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. When I
Yeah.
first started giving lessons, I was like in college, or no, I was just out of college. And
Hmm.
I was like the same way. I was
Hmm.
like, I want to tell them everything that they need to know so they can make the
Yes.
adjustment, but then
Yeah.
they don't start understanding how to make adjustments themselves.
Hmm. Yeah.
And also like from a relationship standpoint, like you got to figure things out on your own.
Hmm.
And dad's not always going to be there. Like it was hard
Correct.
for me to learn that
Yeah.
when I left for college.
Uh-huh.
One thing I'm really glad my dad did when I left for college was like he stopped talking to me about hitting.
Hmm.
Or I don't want to say stopped, but like he would ask me like, what are you learning at school?
Hmm.
And when I came home for break, it was like, what are the drills that you're doing at school? Like, what can we
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
And he kind of just like took the back burner and said, like, how can I help once I get home? But
Hmm.
like he wasn't calling me every day, like talking about hitting. Like,
Yeah.
obviously he was a very curious person, but like, did your dad, when you left for college, like, did he adopt that? Or, um, I'm sure he was probably like my dad and asked a lot of questions, like, what are you
Yes.
doing?
Yeah.
But he kind of just like let my
Uh-huh.
coaches do their thing once I got to
Uh-huh.
college. Did he do the same?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like he's been really good at that. He will only say something if I ask.
Yeah,
Um, if
that's
something
big.
isn't, like, necessarily, like, clicking with, like, Coach Himes or a cue that she's saying isn't really clicking with me, like, maybe my dad will have something different, and then I'll go back to Coach Himes. So I feel like me and Coach Himes have such a good relationship with that. It really helps because she understands that, some cues don't work for me, and some feelings don't work for me. So but anyway, with my dad, it was only if I ever asked him. He's not pushy, like if I ask him for help, like he will give me the help. Don't you worry about that. He will give me the help, but it's always me coming to him first.
Hmm.
So I feel like that's been super, super helpful because I don't have two people in my ear at the same time,
Yep.
with telling me hitting cues because again, that's not helpful. It's just putting a bajillion things into your mind that it's not going to make you any better. So the fewer things I found was the fewer things that I have, the few cues that I have. I obviously I'm going to have cues for my swing, um, after a result, but the fewer cues that I have, I feel like that's really been really beneficial for me. To
Hmm.
just simplify the process of hitting. So
So cool. So
yeah,
cool. Well, I'm guarantee your dad's going to listen to this. So shout out to dad. You did great with Erin.
shout out to dad.
I love it so much. So people that love you and maybe
Mhm.
Kentucky, they want to know how to follow you. So where can people go after this episode to keep following you and Kentucky this year?
I have an Instagram. I think it's just Erin.Coffel. And then I
We'll
have a
confirm that in
Twitter.
the show notes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a Twitter. I think that's Erin Coffel 5. I mean, I have TikTok, but I'm not like a big creator. So, I mean, you can follow me on there. Give me a follow, but
I'm about to do
nothing.
so.
I've made a few posts about softball in college and all that, but yeah.
Cool. All right. I'll make sure those are all in the show notes. Do you mind
Mhm.
answering a few rapid fire questions?
Oh, yeah. I'm not very
I
good on the
didn't,
spot, but yeah.
I was going to say, I didn't prep you for it, but you're an athlete. You can figure it out.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
I call these 5 to thrive. So the first
Okay.
question is, what's like a signature dad memory that's like ingrained in your brain?
Oh, gosh.
It could be funny. It could be intense. It could be whatever.
Okay, I actually would say this past break, we were hitting together, we were doing front toss together in our cage, and he usually is very good about getting behind the screen. But
Oh
I
no.
hit a line drive right back at the middle, and his hand like stood there, like I saw it all happening before my eyes, and it just smacked him right in the knuckles. It took him a while to get over it. He like actually thought his knuckles were like broken, but yeah, that's just something that was recent. So
If you guys know how hard Erin hits, that had to have
yeah,
really stung. Holy
yeah.
smokes. Yeah. And I'm sure he was just like, good hit.
Oh yeah, yeah. He took a little bit. I think it actually really hurt him, but
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
we kept going after
oh my gosh. My
that.
dad would do the same thing. He'd be like, let's just
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. Favorite sports movie? Do you have one?
Yes. I would say Rookie of the Year.
Mm, very
Hmm.
good one. That one's been
Yeah.
a recent favorite on the podcast lately.
Yes, I love that movie.
I love it. What's your dream job?
Being a college softball coach.
Hey,
Yep. Yep.
I love it.
It was for a while. I wanted to like go into the medical field and do all that, but I just found that I don't think I'd truly be happy doing that. I think my passion and love is in the game of softball. So doing something in softball, college softball coaching is my dream job. But
You'd be a great
uh,
coach.
yeah, yeah, that's my
Hmm.
goal. So
I love it. So good. Other than Erin, were there any other role models that you had growing up that you wanted to kind of be like, or just
um
loved watching them play?
yeah, as I was older, it was Amanda Lorenz. Just the type of hitter she was. I love watching her hit. She's so good. She still is so good. But yeah, I think her. Derek Jeter, obviously, because we had baseball on all the time at the house. I loved
Mm,
watching him play at shortstop. So yeah.
so good. All right, I got one final question for you.
Hmm.
When you leave Kentucky, what type of legacy do you hope to leave on this team?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Obviously, I want to leave the legacy of how great of a ball player I was and the records and all that. That comes from all the work. But I want to really leave the impact on like who I played with, the memories that we made, like obviously in softball, but also outside of softball because that's what college is all about. Already being through 2 years of school, like I only have a year and a half left now, and it's just crazy to me. I just want to like be remembered as being a great teammate, a great friend. Like it didn't matter if it was softball or school or anything. Like I was gonna be there for them. Just being a good human being. I feel like as you get to college and you start to make those friendships, they're ones that'll last a lifetime. I've been some of my best friends here. So I feel like just being a good human being and being kind and being there for each other, and it's not as big as the game makes it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. You've already left an incredible legacy and you still have 2 seasons left. And I
I
cannot
know.
wait to see you ball out this year. Um, I just can't wait. Cause like,
Yeah.
that's the beautiful thing about you is like over time, you get better every single rep. So like,
Hmm.
I'm just excited to see you ball out this year, especially with your teammates
Hmm.
and I can't wait to keep following you. Thank
Yeah,
you
I'm pumped.
so much. Seriously, this is going to affect positively so many Midwest families that are like, how do we get there? Like, how do we want to get
Yeah,
there? You
yeah,
shared so much on this podcast, and I know people are going to definitely listen to this one again more than
yeah.
once.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. I'm glad I could share my story. So
This is so fun. Yeah, we'll
yeah.
we'll have to have you on again
Oh,
sometime.
definitely.
I
Yeah.
loved your
Maybe with
stories.
our dads.
Yeah, we'll bring our dads on. Oh
Yeah.
man, that's going to be a conversation for the record books.
Uh-huh.
But can't thank you enough. This is a blast.
Yeah, thank you.